Howdy, and welcome back to the next episode of Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. We're going to do something a little different today. Today is our first armored model kit. This is a Matchbox 1/72 scale kit of the Char B.1 bis and the Renault FT.17. It was a combo pack put out by Matchbox. So this here is a 1986 boxing, number 40176. This was after Revell had kind of taken over the Matchbox line. So this is Revell Germany actually produced this kit. They produced it, boxed it, and distributed it. But we're still maintaining the Matchbox name since the Matchbox name was pretty popular. The first issue of this kit by Matchbox was in 1983, and that was kit number PK176. So let's take a look at the kit and see what we got. So you've got great artwork on the cover. Matchbox, I thought, had, for most of their kits, had some pretty good artwork, in competition with some of the best from Airfix and some of the American produced kits as well. Always dynamic, always something going on. A combination of both real tight and detailed, but then real painterly around the edges. Some of the box art would even kind of filter or spill over onto the sides of the box, but this version here is just contained within the cover. So you've got the model kit, you've got everything written in multiple languages. Look at the side here. So again, repetition of the kit number. This was a skill level 3. And here it gives you a line drawing and semi-color representation of what you're getting with the kit. What was unique about most of the Matchbox armor kits is that they came with a sort of diorama base and pieces, some figures, so you can kind of set up a little diorama scene with a minimal amount of effort. Then here we've got the other side. Here's your languages: English, German, French, Dutch, Italian, Spanish, and Svenska, which I think is Swedish. And then a different angle of the kits, which would help with painting and knowing where the decal placements were going. Kind of nice. The ends. Let's see here. Let's get the end in here. So you've got a repetition of the front, the top box, just cut out, skill level again, and the other side's simple. Similar. This one here was actually purchased through Brooker's Hobbies, a long time lasting hobby shop here in Southern California. They're still in existence, still have quite an extensive model kit collection, along with a lot of other things: gaming, books, reference materials, supplies. They're a fantastic shop, and glad that they're still in existence. And then on the back side, you've got some painting guides here, some information about the different marking sets, and another rendition of what you're getting in the box, the displayed stain or the diorama base, and some figures. And here you see where it's copyrighted to Matchbox 1986, printed in Germany by Revell AG, and also distributed by Revell AG. And so Revell kind of taken this over by then. So let's see what we got. The Matchbox, the only complaint I would say from Matchbox, particularly these earlier kits from Matchbox, is that there are these folded boxes that were end opening, which is really kind of annoying for getting parts out, and then as you're building the kit, you can't store it in the box. So that's the one complaint that I would say about Matchbox kits. So here we got the instructions. And something you may notice is that there are multiple colors of sprues. Matchbox was known for making multicolor kits in their moldings. So you got a light tan, got a medium brown, and then a green. The idea was that you get some sort of kind of color play with it without having to paint. So for the less skilled modelers, they'd be able to have something that had a little pop to it besides just a one color styrene kit, without having to paint it. So kind of a neat idea to help out the young kids. So let's take a look at their instruction sheet. We'll set the markings aside. So you got a fairly large sheet here. A lot of it's having to take up because of all the languages. So here's the initial main part here. Again, information about the tank itself, armament, weight, speeds, things like that. Little blurb about the history of it. And you've also got paint color callouts. Looks like you could use either Matchbox or Renault paints. Got the full view of each tank for the different markings that came with it. They're a little soft on detail for that, so it'd be kind of hard to figure out maybe some of the patterns to be painting, particularly when you get into some of these head-on views and stuff. It gets a little tough figuring out exactly what they're trying to show you there. But kind of nice that they gave you the 4 views. Flip it over. And here's your assembly instructions. Step-by-step, call-outs by part number, what to glue, what not to glue. Pretty tight little drawings. Some of your warnings. There's the bottom half, final touches. So a fairly detailed instruction sheet. Looks like there's not much for interiors on these 2 tanks. Generally you don't see too much interior showing up on tanks of this size, this 72nd scale. Generally you don't see a lot of super interior detail on those. Let's take a look at the decal sheet. Got a cover. The decals are still in fairly good condition. Printed in Italy by Renault AG. And it looks like you get 3 different markings for the Char B, 1 set of markings for the Renault FT. And one of them here, this one here with the U, this one was part of the 2nd section, 3rd company of the 37 BCC of the 1st Division Blindé from the French Army. They were involved in the push into Belgium, trying to stem the tide of Germans that were spilling into Belgium, heading south towards France. And on May 15th, a couple of these Char Bs were given the orders to reach a town called Somtet, south of Metet. And while they were advancing along the N51, they knocked out some AT guns that were covering the N51. And then they got hampered by a river. So they crossed over and ended up near the town of Denay, where they attacked German soldiers of the 8th Infantry Division. Almost immediately, German artillery reacted with 88s and 105 millimeter guns at almost point-blank range. This particular tank, Nivernais, was hit several times. The right track was cut. The commander's cupola was blown off the top of it, and the tank ended up catching fire. So it was abandoned. So I'm going to show you a few images of that particular tank, color profile of it, and the only images I could find were taken by Germans after the battle of the knocked out tank. So I'm going to let you see those. So now we'll take a look at the kit and parts. Looks like you get, since there's 2 tanks in here, of course you get 2 sets of tracks, and these are very soft, practically rubber tracks. Be easy for wrapping around. Pretty nicely detailed. This is for the Char B, and here's for the FT. Not too bad. A little misshapen from sitting in a box over the years, so if you're gonna use this kit, you'd probably have to use a blow dryer on it for a while, heat them up, and kind of let them lay out flat. Then let's look at the trees here. So, pretty soft detail. Matchbox wasn't known for being, real crisp in their detail of their kits. A lot of kind of stylized parts. Real soft build. Here's the parts that make up the diorama base. Kind of nice with the little track tread showing through, footprints. You get some little French soldiers. Part of the village. See the old Matchbox PK coating is on there. And the made in England looks like it's been scratched out, since these are now being made in Germany. And the final sprue here. Get a little bit of detail for the outside of the hull. A little bit of rivet showing. Not too bad. There's your little turret details. So kind of a fun little kit, a little different subject, particularly back in the early 80s when this kit was first produced. Yeah, everyone was making Tiger tanks and Shermans and T-55s, but something obscure like a French Char B was unusual. So Matchbox was kind of known for making some of the little bit more obscure aircraft and armor. And so the Char B was an interesting tank. It was a long gestation. After World War I, in the early 20s, the French army was trying to figure out what their next tanks were going to look like. After coming out of World War I, they were thinking in terms of trench warfare, something large that would be able to cross. And so they mounted this big 75 howitzer in the hull, with a real large lozenge-shaped hull, similar to the British Mark IVs. But they also recognized that it might have to deal with other tanks, so they put a rotating turret on top with a 47mm anti-tank gun. It was heavily armored to be able to deal with most anything. And at the time, by the time this finally actually did get built in the late 30s, it was probably the most powerful tank in the world. There wasn't a whole lot that could knock it out, especially no other tanks really could knock it out in just a straight up fight. But it could get taken out by the 88s and the 105s, obviously. But it was a pretty good, solid tank. The reason why it didn't do so well was a couple of doctrinal issues. One, it was a one-man turret, so you had the tank commander by himself, who was also loading, looking out, for enemy, aiming, firing, the whole bit. He ran that turret by himself. And they were also lacking in radio communication with a lot of the French tanks. Either they weren't fitted, or they weren't very good radios. So they were doing a lot of communications with flags and hand signals, which once a battle starts, it just falls apart. So even though they had probably the best tank in the world at the time, they failed miserably in their ability to be able to run the battlefield. So the Germans ended up capturing quite a few of these after the war. They put them into their own use. It was called the Panzerkampfwagen 740 B.2 was their designation for it. It was used in a lot of kind of like, partisan suppression stuff, secondary roles. Some of these were stuck on the Channel Islands to defend the Channel Islands, and some were fitted with flamethrowers. There were flame panzers, and I think probably the most famous use of these by the Germans was during the Battle of Arnhem. There was a company, 224th Tank Company, I think it was in the area of Arnhem when the British paratroopers landed in September of 1944, and they got thrown into the battle with their flamethrowers. It was good because they're trying to root out these entrenched British paratroopers. But they ended up, most of them ended up getting knocked out eventually by the 6-pounders, 17-pounders, and even some Piats got in the action. So there are a few images of from Arnhem of some of these knocked out Chars. So I'll include those at the end here. And then finally, this kit wasn't issued very often. It was, as I mentioned, the first issue in '83 by Matchbox. They did one other issue, and then this kind of hybrid Matchbox Revell. And then Revell ended up reissuing it much later in 2006 and 2013 with, completely different set of decals, new box art. I don't know if they came with this base diorama thing, since this is a completely separate tree for all those parts. I wouldn't be surprised if they completely omitted it, because it doesn't show anything on the boxes that it may contain those. But if you know anything about that, pop that in the comments. If you built one of these or any of the other Matchbox armor, definitely put a note in the comment. And I think that's just about it. So thanks for watching. If you like seeing something different from aircraft, make a note of that as well. And I'll see if I can include some other stuff. But I thought it'd be kind of neat to see something a little different from aircraft every once in a while. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and have yourself a great day.